What's the biggest ethical blind spots in how businesses are implementing AI today?
I think it's because of speed and innovation. Everybody's hurrying up to be the first to market with something, that ethics is on the wayside.
Ethics, is it going to continue to linger, or are there going to be ways to go around it?
I think it's a question of the balance of the development teams. They're finding balance in terms of the composition of the teams, male, female. If we can encapsulate all of them, then I think we'll be heading in the right direction.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Everything AI and Law podcast with Tolulope Awoyomi. And on today's episode, I have somebody who's smart, intelligent, witty, innovative, and is the CEO, founder of Future Proof. So what is Future Proof? Future Proof is all about getting people ready to thrive with AI. Stay tuned, stay locked in, get your AI popcorn, your legal flex, your ethical hats, and come chill with us. Let's go. And our guest today is Monica D. Higgins. She is the founder of Future Proof, an AI skills training and role optimization company dedicated to helping organizations leverage AI for increased productivity and measurable ROI by making AI useful, understandable, and relevant to every role. Okay, so have you heard about OpenAI Sora, the video generating model?
Yes, I have heard about it.
So I was reading a report by Wired, and they claim that it has sexist, ableist, and gender stereotypes in the video it generates. Whose fault is this? Is it the developer or the society as a whole? Because we have that bias.
So everybody has implicit bias. It doesn't matter who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think looking at the team that put it together, collectively, their bias would be driving the development of Sora. So I guess the real question is, who was on the team and what biases did they bring to the table in order to develop Sora? So ultimately, those who developed it would be responsible for the biases that are in it.
So how do you think this issue of bias and ethics, is it going to continue to linger, or are there going to be ways to go around it?
Well, getting back to bias, everybody has implicit bias, so that will always be there. I think it's a question of the balance of teams that are of the development teams, if they're finding balance in terms of the composition of the teams, male, female, LGBTQ, thank you, and others, racial, economic, all these different factors, all these different demographic and psychographics. If we can encapsulate all of them, then I think we'll be heading in the right direction. But the reality is that that's not the case, partly because of the composition of the tech industry. It's not a melting pot, so to speak. So I think the issues will still persist.
Gotcha. Okay, so what's the biggest ethical blind spots in how businesses are implementing AI today, in your view?
So I think it's because of speed and innovation. Everybody's hurrying up to be the first to market with something, that ethics is on the wayside. Maybe if they were the first to be ethical or first to have ethics at the start, that may no longer be a blind spot. But because there's such this race to be the first to get something out, I think ethics is falling to the wayside. Not that it's not happening at all, but it's not as important as being first to the market with something. So that's creating the gap.
Okay, so let me just move around a bit. So the case for or against AI legal personhood? Are you in support of, because for example, corporations have legal and personalities.
Right.
Should AI, especially advanced AI systems, be accorded that status?
Well, I think it blurs the lines between the tool and humans. I don't think we're there yet because we're looking at the creators that create the AI. Then we have the operators that are responsible for it. I personally don't think that we're at the point where we would have legal AI. What did you call it? AI legal personhood? Because even when you have autonomous agents, somebody is managing the agent.
Okay. Okay. So, hmm, that's really struck so deep. So, with I'm thinking about AGI, maybe when AI has autonomosity. Is there a word like that? When AI is autonomous, fully autonomous, and then nobody's controlling it. Yes, people created it, but they're no longer, maybe once in a while, but not heavily involved in creating, controlling it. Would that be a different case or still the same?
No, because somebody still has to create it. Yeah,
But
in my mind, because somebody still has to create it.
oh, but a company is created by people.
Right.
Yeah, and they're accorded legal personhood. So if AI is created by a person and it reaches a stage where it can act fully autonomous, shouldn't it also be accorded?
Maybe so. I just think we're too early in the development of AI to be thinking that way. So if we look at the levels of the generation or the evolution of AI, we've gone from chatbots to reasoning to assistants to agents. The next level is supposed to be innovators. And after that, it's going to be, I guess, companies or organizations that are entire organization will be run by AI. Maybe when we get to that point, it probably makes sense. But I think now, because the humans are still in the loop from the standpoint of creating the agents and somebody's managing them. Granted, when if an entire company is going to be all AI, maybe we'll have a different conversation then.
Right. Okay. That works. So what does it mean for an AI to have responsibilities or rights in law? And do you think we're ready to have that conversation?
Ooh, for the AI itself or the people that generate or develop the AI?
Let's talk about both the AI
Okay.
itself and the developers.
So in terms of rights, what rights are you referring to?
Okay, so I think this goes back to the legal personality. Well, rights, let's talk about responsibilities now. The rights is going like overboard to an extent. Responsibilities such as ethically, legally, even socially.
Mm-hmm.
But I think AI should. Okay. So I think I would answer this question. AI, AI itself is still kind of abstract because it's a non-living thing or entity. So it should be those who are developing it, those who are behind the scenes that should have these responsibilities when creating it, isn't it?
I would agree with you.
Okay,
And
so
I would also look at it from the standpoint of what their responsibilities are based on what part of the development process they were involved with.
so what part of AI are you most excited about and most hesitant about?
Well, this is the year of Agentic AI, so I'm excited about seeing how people are implementing it. And what was it? Sam Altman said something about, foreseeing like a one person, 1 billion, or was it $100 million company or something to that effect. So it'll be interesting to see how one person can build out this company using AI agents. So that'll be interesting. I guess fear of AI, generative AI in particular, not for me, but I think a lot of people are afraid of it because they're afraid of losing their jobs to it. And yes, there may be some roles that will be going away, but new ones will be created. So it's a matter of recognizing that AI is not going anywhere. It's here to stay and being able to evolve with it. if that makes sense.
So what would you say to people who are scared or don't you scared or concerned about being pushed out of the workplace by machines?
Well, I think this is a perfect opportunity for them to consider upskilling, even if their employer is not offering upskilling, that they themselves upskill, invest in themselves. I forgot which one. I think it's the CEO of NVIDIA. It could have been somebody from HubSpot. Anyway, basically saying you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by somebody that knows how to use it effectively. So now's the time to learn how to use it effectively. And what's really going to help them be competitive is how do you use it effectively to drive business results? Because that's what people are still trying to figure out, is how do I, like businesses are still trying to figure out how do I get an ROI. With the training that we do the upskilling, but we actually tie it back to business outcomes. That's what people need to be able to do. Companies are trying to figure out how to implement AI and show a return on their investment. So it's really interesting to know that AI actually knows your job. And when I say that, it knows what are the competencies for your role. So think about whatever role that you have, white collar role, white knowledge worker role that you have. There's certain competencies that you have to have in order to do the role effectively. And then within those competencies, there's certain deliverables that you are responsible for. So for example, you may be responsible for doing, if you're working for a private equity firm, you have to do liquidity analysis, as an example. Or if you are a CEO, you're having to look at the financials. But within each of those competencies, there's things that you are responsible for. AI knows how to do that. So if AI can help you do it, make your job faster and easier, that means it frees up your time across the organization to be more strategic. Every company has a roadmap, strategic roadmap of things that they want to get to, but they don't have time to get to them because they're maxed out in terms of time. But if AI can help you do your job faster and easier across the organization, no matter what your role is, and you can take a step back and be more strategic and think about, okay, what are these things that are on the strategic roadmap that we can work on to help move the business forward? And usually those things are for your competitive advantage. That's the reason I think upskilling is so important, because it upskills the entire organization, not just that person. That person can be more impactful for the organization.
Are there specific roles or job titles that you upskill for, or does that depend on the organization structure?
In terms of the training?
Yes, the training.
So the training is the training that we offer is the same. At Futureproof, we offer AI skills training. And no matter what your role is in the organization, you go through the same training. What makes it very unique is because I mentioned the AI knows your role. So we actually develop, they're called role plans, that shows the competencies and the deliverables that you are responsible for. And you use that during the training. So you're actually learning, most traditional training is you learn in the training, and then when you go back to your job, you apply it. But by that time, you've probably forgotten it, and it's not relevant. We make it useful, understandable, and relevant because we apply it to work that you're already doing. So you're learning by executing.
I love that. Useful, understandable, and relevant. Did I get that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I really admire what you do at Futureproof, because even the name proof, like you have to protect or have a future proof, protect yourself for the future, which is like what AI is. AI is both a sword and a defense. Depends how one is strategically positioned. So, but I really would, I recommend Futureproof if you guys are looking for a company to, upskill your workers and all. So now to societal impacts, deepfakes and AI generated content.
Mm-hmm.
What are your reactions and emotions towards that? Do you like seeing AI generated videos, or you're like, no, I just want to see humans?
I like seeing them because I'm trying to figure out, is this real or AI?
So how far is that being able to decipher which is which? Have you been good at it?
Sometimes yes.
Okay.
Early on, it was easy because, quite frankly, the technology sucked and it was pretty obvious. People were talking and their lips weren't moving, or the video was out of sync, or maybe there was something in the background that it didn't relate to what the video was about, so it was easy. But now that things have gotten better and better, it's really hard. It's not that easy for me to distinguish sometimes between the real and the fake. What scares me about the deep fakes is because they are becoming more and more realistic, and because of companies such as Meta, for example, getting rid of the independent fact checkers, those types of roles. Who's there to help distinguish between what's fake and what's not? That's the part that scares me.
Legally and ethically, what's the way forward? Is there a solution?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak on from a legal perspective. I just think, well, I guess I'm not an ethics major either, but having those independent fact checkers I thought was helpful, because there was some sort of framework that they were having to look at to apply to everything that they looked at. So presumably there was a certain standard, and that standard of care, whatever it was, if it didn't meet the standard, then it was denied. It was deemed fake and hence not presented to people. Or I think at one point they were putting notes that it was fake or whatnot. So at least people are getting put on notice. With that not happening now, yeah, it's hard. I mean, people are looking at fake things as if they were real, and maybe they're thinking the real things are fake. Who knows? The other part of the path forward, I think, is in regards to organizations or companies taking some sort of responsibility for allowing those deep fakes to proliferate on their platforms. And lastly, I think in regards to, do we need some sort of regulations? I don't know if we need to go that far, because regulation means the government gets involved. But I definitely think we need to have some sort of universal framework so everybody is looking at things in the same way.
So, talking about universal framework, do you think AI should have like a universal code of ethics similar to medical field, where there is a universal framework, like you said, in developing AI?
I think we can get there, but I think starting locally would be easier. That's just me. I think it would be easier to implement on a local level than trying to implement something globally all at once. But I think whether it's local, national, or global, we have to come together to basically decide what's ethical. I mean, we all have to be on the same page.
That's a big one. What's ethical? What's ethical?
Well, part of it to me is transparency. Like, how are these models being built? What are the inputs? Just being able to have that level of transparency will open a lot of people's eyes, for sure. Looking at, we talked about biases. Everybody has implicit biases, but what biases are actually going into the models, and how are we addressing those? Also, in regards to the models, we talked about, well, the biases, we talked about transparency. It seems like so many companies are trying to one up the other. The speed and innovation, I think, is great, but if you had to go through their checklist, is ethics even on that checklist? So let's make sure it's on there and it doesn't trump those other two things, speed and innovation. That maybe it's the third leg of the stool.
Last year, there's this news about a kid or a teenager who committed suicide, if I'm saying
Yeah.
this. What happened?
Well, from what I recall, I think there was 2 cases, if I'm not mistaken, but one used it as a friend, and ultimately the AI, from what I recall, one of the suggestions was to go kill himself or something to that effect. And unfortunately, that's what he did or she did. I don't remember. I remember 2 different stories, but one of them was that it was being used as like a buddy, and the buddy went a little bit too far, a bit more like a bully.
Yeah. Exactly. Was that okay? I need to follow up on that, but I hope we don't see more of that in the future, though. Do you think that's going to be a trend with AI becoming more like people's friends?
I would say, let's kind of go back to COVID, where we were shut down and we didn't have this human interaction. So I think people were craving some level of interaction that was human-like. And I haven't used character AI, so I don't know how human-esque it is, but people were craving something like that. For people that have anxiety, just having that AI buddy, I'm sure is really helpful. So I don't think that type of AI technology, that use of it's going to go away. I certainly think there's some benefits to it, particularly for people, as I mentioned, that have social anxiety, or maybe they're just lonely. That could help with, depression. So I don't think that that's going to go away.
So that means there's a lot of ethical responsibility on the developers to ensure that the trust people put in such AI tools are not breached to their detriment.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. So it's a matter of looking at, I don't know if you can look at all of the use cases, because some of the use cases, they probably haven't thought about them yet. But for the ones that they have thought about, it kind of goes back to the testing of the AI. It goes back to how are they testing it before they release it on specific use cases.
Is there something else you'd want the world to hear concerning AI, or like developers, users, the makers, the companies, the world? Something I haven't touched on.
Let's see here. Oh, there was a conversation, I think it had to do with the negligence. So are companies negligent when there's, a self-driving car kills someone, or getting back to character AI, that example of teenager committing suicide? I think the question of negligence goes back to what use cases were they aware of at the time of development, or what use cases, even if they weren't aware of it, could they foresee at the time of development? Obviously, if you're doing a self-driving car, it's pretty obvious that the self-driving car at some point is going to hit somebody. That seems pretty obvious. Now, in the scenario where the teenager committed suicide, I don't know. There could be arguments either way whether or not that was a use case that would even be considered. But it goes back to responsibility, and it goes back to who's responsible. So the company, would they be responsible? The person that developed it? Everybody along the chain of developing the AI, what was their part in the negligence? Kind of goes back to, I think we talked about earlier about product liability, using that as a framework. Who's liable, and to what extent are they liable?
So developers should, or let me rephrase it, should developers be held negligent when they fail to test for edge cases?
So it's a two-edged sword. On the one hand, if it's an edge case, how do we know that we can test for it if it's a edge case? On the other hand, it's like you need to be able to foresee in the future what the edge cases could be. Yeah, it's chicken and egg.
Should cases like that be categorized under product liability, or should there be a new specific AI liability?
I'm sure at some point there will be a specific category. I think everybody understands. I think most people would understand product liability, so that's a great analogy. But at some point, there will probably be its own AI lane for those kinds of things. I don't know how far on the legal side of things, how far along they are in those sort of discussions. But I would think that it'll create its own little niche.
So in New York, in 2023, a law came into effect that companies who are using AI should, especially for hiring, should undergo an algorithm bias test. So what do you think about this, and do you think this should be nationalized, or it should be on a local case-by-case basis?
If I think about employment laws, there's something at the federal level that we have currently, and then individual states implement something at the state level. I presume that it'll probably work in the same way, that we'll have some sort of federal legislation and then state legislation to address this. I think in regards to hiring policies, to me, it goes back to transparency in hiring, transparency in testing. Well, transparency in testing first, then transparency in hiring. And then in regards to balancing, I guess, legislation or some sort of framework in that regards with individuality.
So subjective. It's not. It should be fluid, depending on the scenario, the context, the state, people, the company.
Well, I don't want to say subjective. I would rather say objective, but it may be objective on a state-by-state basis.
Okay, so is there any danger in granting agency to AI?
I think we're too soon for that because I keep going back to frameworks. To me, frameworks are like boundaries or guardrails, and I don't think those have been established yet fully.
So it's too soon to start talking about that.
I think so.
Okay, so final question is on future proof. So what's future proof up to in the next coming weeks, months, years, and what would you like the people to know about?
Oh, so I mean, we do AI skills training and strategy to drive results, and it goes back to making AI useful, understandable, and relevant at work. That's the key, so people can actually hit the ground running. We also help organizations and individuals measure the impact of AI so they can see what the return on investment is. And we also help them communicate that, whether it's an individual contributor or the CEO, so they can actually see it and see the impact of it. I think in regards to where AI is going, our goal is as AI evolves, and I'm talking generative AI in particular, as AI evolves, we want to help the companies that we work with evolve as well. So this year is the year of AI agents. So naturally, that's our focus. But what's the next thing? And we'll certainly help them. We want to make sure that our clients are actually staying ahead of the curve.
So what's the next thing?
Well, they say the next thing in terms of, so we started with chatbots, we had reasoning, we had assistants and agents. The next one is sort of innovators that are going to create systems or services or processes. Supposedly that'll be the next thing after agents, but we'll see.
Okay, fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yes. So just to say, there's a time, I can't remember who exactly said this, but he said the world's trillionaire would be someone who's able to do something with AI that has never been done before. So that kind of ties into what he said is coming next, innovations using AI.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, fingers crossed.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Very interesting to see.
So any final thoughts?
Well, I know people are scared of AI, and I'm going to talk generative AI in particular, and because it ties back to whether or not they're going to have a job. But let's just look at what's happening with the current administration and forget about AI. They're just cutting jobs. So think of AI as a way to be competitive. If you upskill yourself, you'll be more valuable to whomever whether it's your current employer or your next employer. And usually when you're more valuable, they're willing to pay you more money. So that's something to think about.
Right.
I think the other thing in regards to upskilling, if you have to invest in yourself, even if your employer's not investing in it, I think it's a great investment because, again, it goes back to, will you be replaced by AI or will you be replaced by somebody that can use AI effectively? So if you can invest yourself and upskill, and whether it's for your current employer or you're moving someplace else, you'll be valuable to them. And then continuous learning. Because, ChatGPT was launched in November 2022. I have to admit, when it was first launched, I was a bit intimidated. I could see the potential. Obviously, I wasn't saying what we have now, but I was intimidated because that was the next big thing. I'm not a tech expert. I just want the technology to work, and I just want it to live up to its hype. So everything along this evolution, just having technology live up to its hype, that's what I hope for.
Having technology live up to its hype. Okay, nice. What a nice note to end. Thank you so much, Monica, for coming and for giving your insights.
Thanks, Tolu. I appreciate the invitation.
You're welcome. All right, so everyone, thank you for listening, and please do follow Monica on her company, and I'll put the details in the description box and the comments.
Thank you.
Comment section. Okay, see you all till next time. Bye.
Bye.